Hi, I'm Mark Boyer. I'm a councilman for the village of Vicksburg. And lately there's been a bunch of stories on MLive about Matt Crawford and about the village. And I'd really like to try to tell the whole story. Because what's really going on is a cover up of Watergate proportions. See, Bill and Ron know, I'm sorry, that's Bill Adams and Ron Smith. And see, Bill Adams was elected to the council 2 years ago, and when he got there, I pleaded with him, I met with him for breakfast, I met with him for coffee. I told him, look, these people are corrupt. Everything that Matt and Eric West and Mike Deschanel have done for years have screwed over the village of Vicksburg. But you know what? Bill Adams didn't care. He got on, him and Kyle, who were great friends with Eric West and Matt Crawford, they wouldn't do their job of oversight, of correcting them, of investigating them. So here I am. I've had nothing but 8 years of torment by the police and the administration and the 10% of the village of Vicksburg. You see, this is a story about institutionalized corruption, about everybody not being able in any way to be able to have the checks and balances that were promised. You see, this goes back to when Eric West bought a house on Best Street around the corner from Village Hall. This is a small town. We were a town of 3,000 people. So his house that he bought, and this was to be a business venture, and he told the council that at the time, when we started counseling, questioned him about it, that this was a business venture, and that he was allowed to be able to take business ventures just like anybody else. So this is the story. He bought a house down here for $1,600. Other people were looking to give the village $25,000 for that house. And the reason that I know is that I had been a building contractor for 20 years in this area, and three other families. One family, their house had burned. Another family, they had health issues. They were looking for a house that they could buy and finish, because that's what this house had. Somebody had started it, got it dried in, the doors on. Some of it was all sheeted. Some of it was closed up. Some of it was just boarded up. So what they had is the chief buys this for $1,600 in a backroom deal with the village manager, Matt Crawford. And the reason that I know that is because shortly after I was elected, the people that told me this, I had to go and look into this because the chief lied to everybody on the council and said he didn't own the house. It's because I trusted that lady. I went down to the village clerk's office and I found out that he was lying. So then I started saying, wait a minute, if he's going to lie to the village council about these things, he's going to lie to us about anything that he wants. And that's when I started understanding how joined at the hip Eric West and Matt Crawford were, and how the biggest bullies in this town are the police chief. I had years of it before I ran for the village council. That's why I ran, because I knew that the things that they were doing to me, if they were willing to do this to me, I'm a veteran, a small business owner, then they were willing to do whatever they wanted to anybody. They would railroad anybody. And in today's courts, there's nothing fair. There's nothing about equal access or freedom or any of these things that you and I have been led to believe. When these people come after you, they charge you with a felony, they put you on TV, they say all kinds of rotten, erroneous things about you. There's nothing you can do to fight them. You can't get back. And all you can do is, like me and millions of other people, we have to be at the mercy of the courts. And then these cops get to act and behave in ways that is horrendous. So the police chief, at the time he was a sergeant. There was another chief there at the time. His name is Mike Deschanel. Him and Eric West and Matt Crawford are all as dirty as anybody could be in this country. They violate the Constitution. They make sure that people's rights are just trampled on by not talking to them if they get an attorney, by prosecuting some people and not other people because they're related, by not prosecuting some people just because they don't want to, but going after other people and throwing the book at them for nothing that they did just so that they can throw the net and ruin their lives. Now this is what they've done to me, and this is what they've done to hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands of other people in this area, I am sure. So the chief doesn't get a building permit. He does a bunch of work on the house. One of the neighbors gets pissed off about it and has a fire. So rather than the police chief getting insurance or having making sure that all of the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted, nope, he doesn't have insurance. He's not gotten a building permit, so he can't do anything with it but burn it down. He burns it down and walks away because he doesn't have any real money into it. It was something that was a complete sham. He got the money to pay for this out of payroll deduction and interest-free loan, and that was one of the first things that tipped me off that this town was as corrupt as everybody had ever said it was. When I started looking at their audits, when I started paying attention, the village president, Dan Pryson, resigned just because I started asking questions and challenging him about the corruption of Matt and the police chief. He resigns, and so now we've had nothing but chaos for the last several years, and none of these people have been brought to bear because Bill Adams and Ron Smith don't want them to. These are their buddies. These are the people that have kept them and their buddies in power and given them lots of extra liberty and lots of advantages that you and I don't get. So the chief has once I got onto the village council, I go to help this lady in a police that the police had been harassing her. She's got to go to court because they actually want to put her in jail for not getting a building permit. And the chief goes through this, and the prosecutor says, you know the statute, you could have up to $7,500 in fines, court costs, and jail. And the chief says, well, of course, she should be made to have her house brought into compliance. And the way that I read this is I want to know why. See, this is what corruption takes. See, it takes everybody at every step along the way to look the other way while the people that are in charge are railroading somebody else. So what I want to know, if the police chief was never brought to account for not having a building permit and burning this house down and then leaving it open and vacant and then lying to the council about what he had. Well, okay, but then why were they taking this other lady to court? Why did they give her citations? Why did they take pictures? Why did Sergeant Keene make sure that she got letters, registered letters? Why didn't they do the same thing to the police chief? Why is it that the patrolman that drove by that house every day and saw that it was a 1,100 square foot tiger trap, why didn't they give him the same citations that they were giving everybody else in town? And this is why it really bothers me, is because whenever I bring this up to the people on the council that have been elected 2 years ago, and this, you know what, the police chief says, we weren't enforcing these blight ordinances. We weren't doing these things. That's why the police chief didn't get this at the house. I keep looking down there because that's the direction that the house is. Well, you see, what it is they were. This lady's trial was in November of 2011. And it says in here that they had been working on this case in citations for 1.5 years. So that means that it was May of 2010 when she got her first citation. But at that same time, the police chief had a house that was maybe still smoldering there from when he had the fire and the police department come in and burned that house down, and then he put an orange stockade fence around, or an orange construction fence around it, and walked away. And he never mowed it. He never did maintenance on it. And the reason that matters is the police chief owns a lawn mowing business. If he had wanted to do the right thing, then he could have brought his Bobcat over. He could have filled that basement with sand. But instead, the policemen, the patrolmen, the sergeants of the watch, the former police chief, him, the village manager, all of them made sure that this other lady was prosecuted and persecuted. She's still scared to live in her house. 70-year-old lady on Social Security. But the police chief, the Sergeant Keene that was in charge of enforcing these things, Mike Deschanel, the former police chief, they all looked the other way when it came to one of their own. But what they did to her is what they would do to anybody. And these are the reasons that Matt Crawford got away with what he did. And the reason that this matters is, see, they've tried to say, well, this is what Matt told us to do. But as a Navy veteran, we were told in boot camp about these things that happened after World War II that was called the Nuremberg trials. And what they did is they took the fascists and the Nazis and they put them on trial, and they were told, you know what? If you were told to do something unlawful, you're just as guilty as the people that did it. If you carried out that order, you're just as guilty. And see, that's what's happened here in the village. The police chief, the sergeant, as a matter of fact, some of these people, not only did they never get disciplined, they've been promoted. They're now deputies in the sheriff's department. They can make lots of people's lives miserable. There's never been any oversight of these police, and there's a lot more videos to come. Thank you very much, and have a good day.